Welcome to Complicated Opportunities, a CosmereRPG podcast with a couple of GMs. This week, we're going to cover a few different things. We're going to start, though, with a little assignment we came up with after we got done recording. Irving and I both went out and had someone else run the solo mode of the first step with us. The first step is like a choose your own adventure that allows you to build a character. I believe it's even marketed as a level 0 adventure. So by the end of the adventure, you have a level 1 character. So Irving, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, see what you thought of the adventure, and I will definitely chime in as well.
Yeah, so I think a big point of this is instead of us running it, we had someone run it for us so we could kind of view it from the player angle. And then also, we didn't run it for ourselves because we didn't want to sort of color our opinions with that knowledge. I will say, obviously, I have a lot of experience with creating characters and running various TTRPGs, so there's a point where maybe this wasn't for me. Kyle, I know you're a little bit newer of a GM, but I know you've made characters before and are pretty adept at it. How did you feel about the product for you? Like, did you feel like it maybe had a use?
So I think actually from a GM perspective, it had more of a use by the end of it. I'm definitely one of those people that, like, when Demiplane launched and you could build Cosmere characters, I already had 10 by the time the game came out. Like,
Yeah.
like, as far as video games go, like, I tend towards RPGs. I've played literally 2,000 hours of Elden Ring with 100 different characters. At Baldur's Gate 3, I've played through like 10 times with 10 different characters. Like, I just get a kick out of it building characters. So as from that perspective, I don't know that it was for me. However, I started running Stonewalkers recently, and I kind of wish I would have done this first because there is a way you can do it for up to 6 people. And I think it would have been kind of cool for everyone to create their backstories,
I
but
think
then do this adventure.
6 people is maybe pushing the bounds of what this thing can handle. I think 2 to 3 might be perfect.
Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
I could see that. I mean, honestly, new experience, 6 people was probably just too much in general for even Stonewalkers. Um, I will say,
People
if
can
you
be a
want to
lot.
if you want to jump into the deep end as a new GM, run Stonewalkers with 6 people. It'll do that for you. I have learned a lot already.
Running for 6 people is like that's a Matt Mercer, Brennan Lee Mulligan level effort that is intense.
I mean, our running joke about the Stonewalker in me definitely kicked in because I was not able to say no and ended up, because at one point I only had 4 and I bumped it up to 6, but I
Just your
digress.
buddy. But yeah. So in running this adventure, sort of brief overview: you're a character in a caravan, and that caravan's ambushed, and you're presented with very broad questions of like, "Hey, how do you handle this situation?" And my understanding is that each of your actions, it's like, "Oh, if you did this, put 1 point total towards hunter or agent or warrior." And at the end, you're kind of told like, "Hey, so you did like this many actions, you lean, 4 points to hunter, 2 to warrior, 1 to agent."
The
And you
good thing,
even get a sort of like, "Oh, you did actions that inspired a spren of this sort to start following you," which is
yeah, I
fun.
definitely thought that was a cool, like, because I was curious which one it would lean towards because I knew what I thought it was doing, but I was like, I didn't know if that's what would reflect.
I honestly had no idea they were going to tie spren into it. I probably should have. Uh, like if I
Yeah,
thought about this even beyond a casual like glance, oh yeah, this is a good way to see like what kind of spren would be perfect for the character. And fittingly, I did end up with Windrunner. I know we talked, and you ended up with Stoneward, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it literally reflected. I think it was Stoneward, then Windrunner, then Elsecaller, which is pretty much spot on to exactly what I would think of. So yeah, it did lead to the warrior path as well for me, which typically is what I am going to start with. Sometimes I'll start with the leader path as well because I do like playing a paladin. But in this system, especially, like the warrior path is typically where I go.
Yeah, and I got Hunter, which again very much my play style. It leaned Hunter, Agent, and then Warrior, I think, which
Yep, and
makes
mine was
sense.
warrior,
Hunter.
leader, hunter, I think. Yep.
Uh, And like honestly, there was a little bit of story there that was like pretty engaging. Some like ways to interact with the world that's like, hey, what's going on here?
I want to know who this. I want to know who the shard bearer is.
Okay, so I did talk to Nikki about that, and should we spoil it? Uh,
Well,
maybe there's spoilers later.
yeah.
You can learn about the shard bearer. Just
Oh,
very
okay.
much my character in the moment was like, "There's a flippin' shard bearer here. I'm not gonna ask him who he is.
Right.
I'm out of here."
Yeah, for sure. So no, I actually didn't know that you could find that out. So yeah, we'll definitely get to a spoiler part here in just a minute then. Um, I did like that there were a couple different moments where when we would pause, the GM that was running it for me was like, okay, now you can reassign if you want to. Like,
Mhm.
so it doesn't tie you into where it's like, you've created this character and that is your only option going forward. Like, you absolutely could respec if you want to. But I
Yeah.
was actually pretty happy with where mine ended up. Like, I would play this character for sure.
Oh, absolutely the same. Uh, as to that point, when we did it, it was just like at the end, there's a note like, "Hey, if a person isn't satisfied with their character, they can completely remake it." And of course, that's just kind of like one. That's a standing like house rule at any of my tables is up to level 3 in a given system. It's like, yeah, you can re-roll your character if it's not driving with your fun or entertainment, or even later if you are not feeling it.
For sure. And the cool thing here is like the CosmereRPG has that built in because you can do it in
Yep,
downtime.
you can do that downtime activity.
And
Yeah.
also for your Spren bond, like until you finish speaking the words of the first ideal, you can change which Spren you're attracting as well after a long rest. Like, so there's always, it is built in to be like, hey, we know people have been wanting to do this, so we're not going to lock you out of anything, no matter how
It's
you're playing this game.
it's good to give permission to the people that will be steadfastly bound by the letter of what the rules say.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
because like people who homebrew, they don't need those notes. That page space could have been spent on something else. But there's a lot of people who are very invested in what do the actual words of the rules say, and I think giving them the excuse, or not excuse is a dirty word, but giving them the out in the text to allow for that sort of freedom that a lot of people just inherently allow, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we
Um,
want to go ahead and get into spoilers?
well, I wanted to get into maybe some downsides of the
Okay,
adventure, in my
cool.
opinion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think the coolest moments were things when you took an action and the response was, okay, add a skill point to light weapons, add a skill point to stealth. Or, oh, I do this thing, add a point to speed or strength in your attributes. That sort of building up your character moments. I think there weren't enough of those. I think I only had a total of 4, and then you kind of get to this bridge point in the middle between the ambush and the thing that follows after, where it's like, and I know you mentioned you kind of missed this, but in the notes, it literally says assign the rest of your scores. Uh,
Yeah.
and like that's a lame thing to put in this choose your own adventure thing. I understand, it could take a long time, but if you're with totally new people, take a long time. They want to learn, and learning takes time. So I don't see why there's like a assign all your remaining points moment.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that by the end of the adventure. I thought that was weird. I thought that was a weird spot as well to do that
Yeah.
in. The other thing that threw me off, like it calls out in the handbook that 0 is a perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, so it has you start at 1 for everything.
Yeah, so I thought that was weird because like I have a 1, like my character ended up with 1 in awareness, and like I didn't add anything to my awareness attributes. I didn't, and like didn't even really use them. So it's
Mhm.
like I could use that 1 in awareness to add to speed or to add to intelligence, like whatever I was going to add it to. Because
Yeah.
typically when I build a character, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really use awareness. Well,
I do.
you play a hunter.
Well, I play hunters and I play things that like to sneak around. Um,
I play the frontline guy, so it's usually like,
yeah.
it's going to be pretty aware to me because I'm just diving headfirst in anyway.
But even so, I do really like just the setup of it
Hmm.
all. Even if I think those moments could have been used more, the times you got them were really cool. And I'm not a game designer, so I don't know if maybe they tested it with every single action giving a bonus, and they're like, "Oh, this is too much. It's a little too rote." But my gut feeling is like, who is it really for then? Because if it's for new people, you want every single moment to be kind of explained so they understand a feel of it. If it's for people that already play RPGs, well, most people who play RPGs pretty heavily don't need to be told how to build a character. They'd
If I
probably be served better just by reading the World Guide, or not the World Guide, but the Welcome to Roshar booklet.
Yeah, if I had to guess, like I'm thinking through like our typical play group, and like I think that there's two people that really stand out in mind. I'm trying not to name drop just in case I
Yeah.
don't want to, but like one of our players was very Cosmere aware, but had never played a TTRPG. So I think this would have been good for him. But also, if you or me, if we would have ran it and guided him through that, it could have been good for like when you get to that point where it's like, hey, go ahead and assign the rest of your stuff. It gives you a little bit of agency where it's like, the adventure isn't going to completely build my character. I still have some say in it. So it's like, let me keep the stuff that the game told me to do, but then I can adjust the rest. And if you have a GM who's aware of the system, they could easily guide you through that where, hey, what kind of character are you trying to build? Like, because for like we just talked about with awareness, like I would not use it. So it is perfectly okay for me. But I, as a player, would not have necessarily been comfortable putting a 0 down, even though the book tells me that. But like, I could talk
Yeah.
someone through that now that, hey, it's okay to put this 0 down. And then I also think of someone who's not familiar with the world. One of our other player characters still to this day hasn't read a Cosmere book. I think out of spite at this point.
Mhm.
Um, just because I'm messing with him. But like this would have been good for him too because he's not familiar with the world. So it would have been a good like, hey, let's drop you in because I do think it evoked the feeling of being in Roshar.
I think it did that very well.
Yeah.
Uh, I think because there's the surviving the night portion. I
Mhm.
don't know if that would have been better if it was like survive the high storm or like
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still think like if I had to give it like a number score, like it's still a solid like 6.5 out of 10 for me. For what it, and I think for what it is, it's more like an 8 or 9. Like I don't know that as a player it's useful for me because
Yeah, yeah,
I've
and
built
that's
so
just the
many
thing. I
characters.
don't think it's useful for me, Irving, but I think that I can envision a point where it is useful,
Hmm.
and knowing that it's useful in its niche, exactly like you said, 8 or 9, I'd probably say just put it at a 7.
Yeah.
Like 7, done with it.
Like if I was running this at a local game store and people are like, "Hey, I want to play this, but I have no idea what I'm doing." Like I think it could be a fun little, "Hey, let's get 3 or 4 of us together and run through this." It'll just give you a
Yeah.
good feel for what because it only took I don't know how long it took you and you guys to do it, but it took us like 30 minutes. 45 if we would have done everything. There were a couple things where the GM running it for me. He's like, "Hey, dude, you know what combat looks like in this. We don't need to run a combat at the end." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good with that."
Well,
Um,
I did the combat.
yeah, I didn't. When he was like, I was like, I'll do it if it helps my character sheet. He's like, it doesn't. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, so then we just moved on because I was just literally like on my Discord, hey, can somebody run this for me? And he was like, yeah, give me 5 minutes. So it was
Yeah.
like, we just wanted to get through, feel what it felt like, and yeah, I'd say like a solid 7 out of 10. Pretty happy with it.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it was a good time. Honestly, it was just fun to like sit down and like with my partner and like run an RPG just the two of us. I kind of want to do more of that now.
Hmm. I'm very
Uh
interested to see what the solo mode looks like when it comes out because there is a solo mode for the game that they have talked about. Don't know much about it yet, but if this was the first glimpse, I'm like a solo mode almost with a GM and one player could be pretty cool.
yeah. Yeah. I think so. Some games have like true solo player modes, and I've never been super interested in playing those. Like I think of Root or I think Wingspan had a mechanical like single player, but
Hmm.
those are just other board games. Yeah, that really that's it with First Step. It's short and sweet. It's a fun time. I think it's for now that I ruminate on it more. It's for the people that buy the RPG books at Barnes and Noble because they like the Cosmere but
Yep.
haven't played RPGs, and less for people like if you're at a game store, you're probably in the know enough that you could be told with just like a pre-gen and do Bridge 9.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think it would be better if Bridge 9 had a tie-in to the to Stonewalkers rather than First Step.
Yeah. I think there's a way to do that. I'd have to think on it a little more, but yeah,
It's
it's
not
cool that it's
clean.
like
But
Yeah, it's not clean, but it is cool that it's like, hey, at the end of this, like, you can step right into Stonewalkers and go. I'm just partial to Bridge 9, so I always want it to be able to do a lot. Because that was my first experience playing the game.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
always going to
I
have a
love
little
Bridge 9.
nostalgia. Yeah,
Uh,
oh,
Bridge 9 is an absolutely great, one shot in that it is a singular contained adventure. It might not take you just one session if you play for less than 3.5 hours. But if you have a group that knows what they're doing, you can do it in 3.
yeah.
Uh, what would you give, I don't know what your experience with one shots is completely, but what would you give Bridge 9 on like a 1 to 10 scale?
I don't have a ton of experience with one shots on accident because every campaign I started ended up turning into one shots.
Yeah,
Uh, but like,
familiar with
yeah,
that feeling.
yeah, I would honestly give Bridge 9 like an 8 or a 9. Like what for the first time playing the Cosmere RPG as a group with the pre-gens, like it hit everything. It gave me every exposure to everything in the game. It felt tight, it felt contained, it didn't drag. Yeah, like I really enjoy Bridge 9.
I'm very excited to see what sort of Bridge 9 type adventure they do for Mistborn.
Me too.
Uh,
Especially as they've talked about in some of the panels, like, with the Radiant, you can't take a Radiant path till at least level 2, but they've mentioned in multiple streams, actually, I just watched a video Ross did recently where he's like, yeah, like, it makes sense. On Scadrial, you're born with your ability. So,
yeah,
yeah, I'm like a level 1, you could already be working your way through. So, yeah, I can't wait to see that. I'm assuming there's one coming. I haven't heard
yeah.
yet, but
I assume I don't know.
yeah,
Like truthfully, do not know.
yep,
And I would hope there is, because we
yeah,
know
for
there's
sure.
a big adventure. I don't know if there's going to be like a first step analog either, but we'll test that if there is when it comes out.
Absolutely. And we'll let you guys know.
Yeah. Uh,
Awesome.
I'd agree though with like the 8 or 9 to Bridge 9.
Mhm.
And a lot of people will be like, "Well, you're Cosmere fans, of course you're going to say that." But I've run a lot of one shots, uh, and official one shots from the companies that make the game generally sit in the 6 to 7 range for me. Uh,
Gotcha.
with there being one standout that I'd put it like a 3,
Interesting. Yeah, I've only the one
and
shots
you
I have
probably
done.
know which one that is.
Yes. Yeah, the one shots I've done have all been homebrewed. So this is my first exposure to a pre-written one shot. But like I said, it just really hit all the spots for me because like it hit everything without going into major spoilers about it. Like you got your combats, you got your endeavors, you got your conversations. Spren were involved, Radiants were mentioned, like, but none of it felt like it was being shoehorned in. It
Mhm.
all felt natural, and like the story of Bridge 9 is really good, and also like First Step really evoked Roshar for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think Bridge 9 getting into the chasm is great.
Yeah,
Uh, and I don't feel like we really need to talk about spoilers for First Step now. Like, obviously, there's a lot of paths you can take to find out information, and I think that's a plus side of the adventure. Is they
yeah,
really thought about those like, well, what if a player does this in this situation? That like to me, completely alien idea that they allowed. Bridge 9 is a little more on the railroad. It doesn't have quite as many of those moments.
yeah. That's true. Which I think I don't know. I know railroad's like kind of a bad term, but like I don't mind that in a one shot an adventure like that. Like I'm cool with some branching
Yeah, when you
if
got
needed.
good scenery, does it really matter? You just
Exactly.
look out the windows and enjoy.
Yep.
On to kind of our next topic. We're kind of doing a broad overview of supplemental materials here. And I want to talk about the World Guide.
Yeah.
Probably the Cosmere fans' biggest event sort of release from this RPG Kickstarter is the World Guide to Roshar. Because we get a
Absolutely.
whole bunch of new lore and information about organizations, about the world, countries I didn't even remember existing, like a lot of the various Asish Empire nations.
Yeah,
Uh,
there are definitely those like
Steen. I don't know if Steen is called out in the books more than twice.
yeah. Brotherwise did a great job of like, hey, you mentioned this one time in this book in one place. We're gonna put that in here. Like the
Yeah,
level of like honestly, the theme of everything we've been talking about so far is the level of care that Brotherwise has put into all of this is fantastic.
yeah. It makes me very excited for Plotweaver and when they
Yes.
will do maybe their own setting or just like a system agnostic setting. or not system agnostic, but a setting agnostic system. But yeah, the world guide. I also like, I originally thought, oh, this is just for the Cosmere fans. It is gonna just tell you it's a gazetteer of the world. That's a couple, maybe 100 something pages. I forget how many pages it actually is, but it's a lot more than that. I think almost all your adversaries, or the biggest collection of adversaries to use, comes from that world guide, which kind of like a bit of a shock. I feel like some of those should have been in the player handbook, but you get your adversaries there. You get high level information on having lore characters like Yasna or Navani as patrons, or working with organizations like the Ghost Bloods or the Sons of Honor. I might need to check if Sons of Honor is actually in there.
I think
I
they
might be
are.
misremembering that,
No,
but
I'm pretty sure they are because I've definitely you've gone a little more in depth in the world guide than I have at this up to this point. I've definitely like glanced through and used having Demiplane is nice because like it'll have links where it'll be like, hey, you can review this in the world guide, and then I can click it and it just goes there, which is pretty sweet. But yeah, I mean, I'm like it has
oh, the
you
Sons
know
of Honor are there. Okay.
okay, and I love the patron idea. Like that was something I just had never thought of before getting into the game. But like even the fact that like Seth can be one of your patrons or Renarin, and I love that Seth is basically like, "You're getting on my nerves. Go away." like
Yeah,
it's just a
very
lot of
very true
fun.
to him as a character. And also like it's cool for kind of learning how canon aspects of the cultures work, and if you want to work those into your RP or into your character building. There's even like a brief bit on advice for doing scenes in Shadesmar, which, despite being a little bit difficult to say, scenes in Shadesmar, very cool.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think this book is more essential than people think. It just, the 20 something adversaries in here, a pronunciation guide, which is great. There's a stat block index that has them listed out on which pages they go. That's fantastic. I
yeah.
love multiple forms of organizing information. Makes me so happy.
Absolutely. And like, let's not, even if you're not super interested in an RPG, which if you're listening to our podcast and you're not, I'm a little confused. But like, the artwork in here also is just fantastic. So, like, even if you're
As
just
is
put,
all the artwork for the RPG.
but like, this thing definitely feels like that coffee table book. Cause like, I have the, like, Art of Jedi Survivor, Art of Jedi Fallen Order. Like, I
Hmm.
buy those books. Like, this does that, but on steroids because it not only has the art, but then it gives you all of the explanation you need, all of the high level coverage. But there's also some cool like lore drops in here. Uh, be warned if you haven't read through Wind and Truth, it's going to spoil some stuff for Wind and Truth in here.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I think there might even be some spoilers for the fifth book.
oh, there definitely is. Like,
Um,
there like one of the arts that I just scrolled by is like in the back half of the book.
yeah,
um, So yeah, there's but gosh, man, that art of Tom that's in there. That's like I've literally bought that to put in my wall once we move.
yeah. That's a Dan DeSantos one, right?
No, that one was Scott Murphy.
Scott Murphy. Okay.
Yeah. The Dan DeSantos art I want is the Warbreaker art. His Warbreaker
Mhm.
art is just incredible.
But yeah, so this book, very useful. I think, if you're thinking about skipping it, don't. You should pick it up.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would
a
definitely
lot of
say
us
that even if
got
you're never going to run
benefits.
Stonewalkers, World Guide definitely essential. Like Handbook, World Guide to me, like they're almost like a part one, part two.
Yeah, I'd honestly say I'd buy the World Guide before Stonewalkers, and I think Stonewalkers is a great adventure. I'm having fun playing it. I'm having fun getting ready to run it. I think the World Guide, with the World Guide and the handbook, you could have countless hours of fun with the RPG without touching a published adventure.
Absolutely. So
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, what
Anything
else?
else you want to
What else
cover
do
on the
we
World
want to
Guide?
talk about, man?
Well, I mean, we started having a segment, so like,
Yeah,
you want to
back
roll
to the
to it?
segment.
Yeah,
Tales from the table. We'll have music one day.
one of these days we will for sure. So my tale from the table, like, it's almost a little bit of a follow up from the last time where we talked about me getting into Stonewalkers and then running the first chapter way too fast.
Yeah.
Didn't let it breathe. So I course corrected. The L Scholar me came out a little bit because I asked everybody for feedback. And so one of the things, and I've noticed this conversation popping up online, like, because Stonewalkers is a pre-written adventure. A lot of people really want to read, like, they want to get through it because they're like, it's canon. Like, I want to know what happens. But it is okay when you're running a pre-planned adventure like that to, like, pause, add in a scene, do a side quest, whatever you want to do. So the game has the beginning of the second chapter has some downtime built in while you're traveling, and so to kind of course correct, what I did was we went over what everybody wanted to do, like, reward wise. So, like, this is what I want to cover. Like, I want to build this skill, or I want to read this book, or whatever it is they're wanting to do. But then I also added in, like, awesome, who do you want to interact with? Because you're taking 20 some days to travel somewhere. So you're obviously going to see each other when you're eating. You're going to see each other throughout the day. What interactions and conversations did you want to have to build those relationships with the rest of your party? Which I thought led to a really good. It really fleshed the party out, because the first chapter, especially, is very like bang, 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 like, let's get the adventure introduced.
Mm-hmm.
So then when we got to the meat of chapter two, and I'm trying to stay spoiler free, like, there's a couple different places where your party can split, they can branch, like, there's a branching narrative. And, like, by the time we got to the war camp to do that, you actually kind of already knew, like, oh, these people kind of have this in common. They're going to go do this part. These people had this conversation together. They're going to go do that. This guy's going to protect that character no matter what, so they're going to follow that. So it did lead. It made the adventure less pre-planned, even though it, like, obviously I'm following a pre-planned script, but it made it more interactive for the party and customized to them as well. So don't be afraid to take those moments to pause and let the story breathe. That was a learning I had.
Nice, yeah. I uh and this is something that I've, like, personally known, but it's always difficult to deal with. Sometimes you're just too burnt out to run a game, even when you have it scheduled, and you personally need to take a step back and, like, either cancel or try and change up what's going on. I had a really rough week. I needed to cancel the game I run with you, uh, but instead of just canceling it and saying, like, hey, no game, there was an opportunity for you guys to do a lot of sort of maintenance tasks and downtime stuff together, and you don't necessarily need a GM for that. Obviously, one of the players took notes, and I'll be able to, like, review those, because you did have to make some rolls and, like, generate some complications and opportunities. But you guys were able to have, a mini session and actually get some work done. You did a big crafting episode, essentially,
Yep.
and you didn't need me there for that, and I was able to take the time I needed. I slept for 12 hours,
Which is awesome.
which is great. And, like, yeah, it was not the best way to do something, but it can work out. And, this is, for people listening, this is your excuse. If you need to take time for yourself, do it. Like, you can tell your players, like, hey, you guys are going to have this downtime coming up. Why don't you guys sort of get together and have a discussion on what you'd want to do? I'm sorry, I personally, like, can't deal tonight. And that's okay. It's okay to take that space. And I think it's important to remember, we're here to have fun. And when real life gets in the way, it's okay to take a moment for yourself.
Yeah. And it was
Um,
a cool, it was just a fun little, like, for us, like, one, we were all absolutely supportive of that. Like, hey, like, take your time, do whatever you need.
yeah, you
Um,
guys were great.
but that was a great idea, because it was just fun for us to, like, basically just BS for like an hour, making some rolls, doing some stuff. But it was like, a lot of times when you start playing the game, you always feel rushed doing scenes like that, even though no one's actually rushing you. But it's like, oh, do I really want to take an hour to just sit here and craft materials? Like, some people do, some people don't.
Hmm.
Uh, but, like, since that was literally our only task, like, we took our time with it, we had fun with it, we tried to come up with some, like, creative, stupid little things to build. Yeah, like, it was a short session, but it was still a enjoyable session. And I think that when we run our next one on Wednesday, like, we'll be able to just build right off of that and roll.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm excited for that. But again, that's the tales from the table for this week. Another short one. Anything else you'd like to talk about today, Kyle? Any thoughts on what we're doing next?
I think I'm good for now. And honestly, the exciting thing is, next is Dragonsteel Nexus. So we're both going to be attending. We have some interviews planned. I don't want to say anything yet in case scheduling happens, because Nexus is a pretty you know high-paced event for those of us going and doing this, but we should be coming at you with a bunch of interviews after that. Some, if there's anything announced at Nexus, we'll definitely do like a news episode.
Yeah, I have time to go to that Brotherwise panel. I'm excited. I'll be
Oh,
there with a
jealous.
notepad.
I don't think I'm going to be able to, but I definitely want to hear all about it. But we've got adventure or it's interview adventures. Jesus, we have interviews. We have
We
any
also
news
have
that will be
adventures.
coming.
We are both running the game for
That is
a
true. So
month.
we can actually our tales from the table are going to be with strangers next time, which is kind of fun. Like I definitely had some stories from Gen Con because I have ADD, I don't remember a lot of now. But
Yeah,
for
we should ask actually what we're allowed to talk about
from one of the
from
adventures
Dragon's
we're
Throne
running for
Nexus.
sure. Yeah, I definitely will do that. But yeah, so we'll have that. We'll have the adventures. We will have the interviews. We will have any news. And then when we get back, I have a feeling that December is going to be a lot of. We are going to start interviewing the player characters and the GMs from from Shard of Opportunity.
Yeah,
So there's like I was joking with Krishna the other day. There feels like there's a million of them, so it might take us 3 months. But we're going to actually get interviews with them, talk about how they came up with their character, what their experience was like with TTRPGs, and like how they've adjusted to the Cosmere RPG and what they think of playing it. So
yeah, that'll be very exciting. And remember, as always, this podcast is sponsored by Goop. When you want wellness with a funky name and way more lead poisoning than you should ever have, remember, Goop. No, we're not sponsored, and we wouldn't take them as a sponsor anyway. I hope you folks have a nice day. And Kyle, you can take us away.
awesome. So let's roll our plot die and raise the stakes. This has been Complicated Opportunities.